Welcome to the Got Invention Show. I'm your host, Brian Freed, and our guests today are Mike and Skylar Walker of Hot Wireless. Welcome to the show, Mike and Skylar.
Hi there. Good to be here.
Thank you, Brian.
How you doing? Nice to meet you both, and thank you for being on the show. Why don't you start off by telling us who you are and where you're from, and maybe what that problem was that you came up with a solution for.
Sir, I'm Mike Walker, and I'm originally from Portland, Oregon, but at this time, I live in Punta Gorda, Florida. And the problem that came up was one that everybody has at some time, and that is they want to keep a connection between your Wi-Fi devices or your cell devices so they can keep communications.
Okay. And Skylar?
Hi, I'm Skylar, and I'm originally from Texas, but I've lived all over the country. And when Mike and I started working together, we lived in a house that was built in the 20s, and we everyone had to go outside their house to make a cell phone call, and there was very often it would be disconnected even then.
Wow. And Mike, what's your background?
My background is in electronics, and I was educated later on as chemical engineering. So
Very nice.
Yeah.
So there was this problem of people, whether it was your neighbors or you or business people, whatever it is, they're going around with their cell phones. They're not able to hear somebody because the signal is weak. Maybe they're getting a lost signal, frustration everywhere. It could be a business call, a personal call. Tell us a little bit more about what kind of made you really want to make sure that this invention worked.
Okay. My electronics experience was in the U.S. Navy, and I went into the Navy in 1966 and studied electronics. My courses lasted over a year and a half, and all we studied was electronics, so it was very, very intensive. And the thing about connections when you're in a service is it has to be 24/7 at 100%. Otherwise, things can happen that are not going to be good. So those are the things that made me understand that if you have connections, you want them to happen as solid and as stable as you can have them. And wireless is a very tricky thing to do sometimes.
And it's evolving constantly. So you really have your hand on the pulse there with what is going on in Hot Wireless. And I wanted to thank you for your service and your invention.
Oh.
It's great.
Thank you.
It's great. All right. So let's take a look at the video that you have that demonstrates. And this video was, maybe just give us a quick intro on the video. What is it about?
This video is about our latest invention, which is the Hottie Extreme 5G. And this is a pocket cell phone booster, signal booster for cell phone, Bluetooth, and Wi-Fi. And the woman demonstrating it was also our spokesman on Home Shopping Network. And what she's actually doing in the video is she's taking the Hottie Extreme 5G and she's putting it by a spectrum analyzer, and a signal booster will show on the screen that she shows the increase in signal as a result of her moving this close to the analyzer. So that's what you're watching.
That's great. All right, so let's take a look. Let's see what she's got.
How do you know the Hottie Extreme is working? I get this question all the time because you can't see signal.
Let's see. She stopped in place, huh?
So
There she goes.
A demonstration for you to actually see the signal boosting. This is a signal meter. Now I want you to pay close attention to this needle right here. As I put the Hottie Extreme underneath the signal meter, look at this going way over. That is a lot of signal boosting power. So if you have 5G, 4G, doesn't matter, this is going to boost your signal.
Wow, very interesting. Very, very interesting. So tell us about that experience, having your product on HSN.
It was, it was brand new stuff for us. So we kind of had to listen to the experts.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today and discussing with you on the power of digital that
Video is still playing.
small and medium businesses.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's
growing
get that
businesses,
shut
and
off.
even larger businesses.
There we go.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay, again. Okay. Wireless signals are invisible, and that's one of the things that is challenged to demonstrate for people. And what you saw in there was actually a spectrum analyzer and a signal generator. And the spectrum analyzer acted like a cell phone would. In other words, it receives a signal. Now, when it receives a signal, it demonstrates it by putting it on in that case, a laptop. So you can actually watch the meter go up and down, and it demonstrates the signal does increase.
What makes this invention so interesting is that there's so many people, well, practically everybody has a cell phone. And
Right.
I'm sure at one time or another, their signal was lost, their Wi-Fi was weak, frustration everywhere. And you have the solution for it. And it's in that simple pad. It's in the simple pad. What exactly is going on in that pad? What is making it so the signal, the Wi-Fi, whatever it is really coming back to life?
Great question. And the thing is that we live in what I call an RF soup. Radio frequencies are around us all the times. The challenge is we want the right ones at the right place. So the idea was to take and somehow focus local energy down into a very small spot and then reshape it so that we can make it go in a certain direction. And that is the way that we actually can find out how I'm going to focus and make something useful that otherwise wouldn't happen.
So this is your background. You knew about this industry already. You just took it to a different level for everybody to be able to use. And when you came up with this idea, Mike, what was the first thing that you did? Like, what really was that point where you said, you know what, I got to take this to the next level? Like, I know about this. I know about the issues and problems and the challenges. Like Skylar mentioned that she was out with the neighbors and everybody was losing their signals and frustrated. What was that moment where you said, I got to do something about this?
I think I was actually doing a project with the Salt River Project. And they had a problem with the communications in that they had a reservoir on a high mountain and a pump station down on a little valley, but there was the edge of a cliff was in the way. And I said, perhaps if you use this technology, we'll be able to fix it. So they did it. And lo and behold, the technology worked well. So, but that was a very large system. I said, we have to make it small so that it's useful to the everyday person. And the other thing is that came up, especially with my time in the service, was the more complicated things become, the less useful they are. In other words, a lot of the times the problems were mostly from the user who didn't really, get the technique right. So the idea was to make something small. Let me grab them. Small, and that you could carry with you. So here's basically the latest.
Yeah, let's give you the screen for a second so you can really see it. I know you have a few different versions of it, right?
Yeah,
We do.
Yep.
And this was done for 5G because that was the next technology. Our first device was mostly for 3G, and we call it the Hottie. Which was,
so you have the Hottie and the 5G. What's the difference between them?
Well, we also had a Hottie Extreme.
Oh, and Hottie Extreme. Yeah,
the Hottie Extreme was 3G and 4G, and now we have the Hottie Extreme 5G. Now the thing, all the products you can do this with are flexible, so they don't care, and you can put them in your pocket, which is usually what I do, and it works out well for the device because it's close to the phone.
And it's okay. It doesn't harm the phone when you put it next to it. No. Any magnetic, anything that anybody has had a challenge with where it's being next to and it might ruin or destroy something. It's all simple.
No. It's basically adding gain to very, very small signals in the microvolt range. So, for most purpose, it's just fine.
And you have how many patents on this?
I have 4 patents. We actually have one other product called the Hot Cloud, and that was kind of the original thoughts. And that was designed for office buildings. In other words, if I'm in an office building, most most of those have solarized windows, and they have concrete on the floor and in the ceilings, and that's how they're built. And those pretty much stop radio frequency signals. So the hot cloud was meant to be embedded into a ceiling tile, and we had what you call a donor antenna, which is usually on the surface of the building, on the roof, and we bring the signal down to a small amplifier and basically flood the an area with the signal. Otherwise, you couldn't get signals. We demonstrated it at one of the largest, well, the largest ceiling tile maker in the world, and they had a conference room in a subterranean area, and we took the signal from the roof, sent it down to the conference room. Funny thing happened was they had engineering right next to it, and when we turned it on, the head engineer came in and said, "What are you doing here? I finally got cell phone." And we just started laughing. But yeah, that was a great deal because it did expose the fact that it did work well, and so we did several projects with these people. So
it's really interesting that when cell phones became really active and busy, and everybody kind of had one, I remember that people were trying to figure out ways to stop people from using their cell phones. And you couldn't even bring a cell phone to a sports event or a concert without getting right. That was before the evolution of really social media. But it's amazing that you can take something that is just not giving enough juice in the phone, where there's only so much of an antenna or whatever it is, the signal that you can give in these little phones, and now you have yours, which is basically what they wish they can put into the phone by itself, right?
Well, we these things have been, it's happened in the past. It's a tricky situation, and in my electronics background, I also studied why and how waves propagate. And so what you're trying to do is actually to control the waves so that they work for you. Otherwise, people just spread them all over the place. And if you could make it into a small area and concentrate it, then it becomes useful.
When you came up with this idea, you had a path and almost knew what it was that you wanted to do. But what did you do first when you did come up with the idea? What was it? You said, okay, I understand all this. Where did you go from there, Mike?
Well, I'm going to ask Skylar to tell us, because that was a good thing for her.
The first I knew of it was in the middle of the night. One night he said, "Do you have any straight pins?" So, what are you going to do? So anyway, that was the first time he had been talking about out loud. He had been thinking about this for some time, but that was the evolution or the initiation of the hot cloud product. And in reality, it's a 12.5 by 12.5 in an acrylic box, typically about 1.5 inches thick. And it's powered, as he was describing. But at that point, in the middle of the night, it was straight pins that he wanted to do an experiment in our hallway, down the hallway to the other bedrooms. And it went from there. Yeah.
Some of the best inventions come from in the middle of the night. So, Skylar, you were a good sport for being involved in it.
It was a lot of fun, actually.
Story, yeah.
That's great. So what did you do then? Both of you together, what did you got the material that you needed, and you started to experiment, and tell us about that experience. Did it work on the first spot or first try, or did you have to kind of modify it to a point?
I think as an inventor, and you very rarely have the right answer the first time. But what you do take away is that which does work, you understand which doesn't work, and find a way to make it better. And we're doing some work with a company in Beverly Hills, and they were in a big tall building, and they had, like everybody else, not a very good signal strength. So we basically did the same thing, only we did it now. It was getting a little bit more refined, and we were able to move signals down a hallway, along hallway, and then into offices, basically all wireless. And
that was the engineering side of it, and the
Correct.
trial and error. And it seems like both of you, trial and error. It seems like both of you have been involved in this process of getting it to where it is today.
Mm-hmm.
On the business side, have you have either of you had experience in business to say, okay, we understand the engineering side. Now, how are we going to make this into a product? What was the point there? Were you thinking about maybe licensing your technology to earn royalties from it? Were you looking to start a business? Tell us about that kind of fork in the road for you.
Well, both of us had experience. I'll just kind of touch on mine. I've been in business for myself for a number of years, and it was mostly wireless. When I first started as a chemical engineer, I went in and I said, oh boy, I get to design new plastics and, you know, all that fun stuff the chemical people do. But the company that I worked for said, no, you have electronic experience. You're going to help us in that realm. And that was how I started. And I worked for a couple of years like that. Then I said, well, I'm going to start my own business. And I did. And me and a friend of mine went off and started a business. And we were working in an area called SCADA, which is Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. It's the way that people control, you know, from a central area, offsite, objects. In this case, it was water, wastewater, and gas type objects. And again, there was wireless at that time because, you know, dragging phone lines all over the place it's not very helpful. So anyway, I did that for a number of years. Actually, we did do a very big project with AMD in Sunnyvale, which was a pretty big project for us. And then at that time, I decided maybe I'll go on my own. And I moved down to Long Beach, and that's where I started another company and focused totally on wireless. And it was a good experience. I've been on a lot of mountaintops and everything. I had my own company later on that was one of the first wireless companies for commercial use in Los Angeles. And I had my company was actually in a place called the One Wilshire Building, which was a NOC, a National Access Center, one of 14 in the U.S. So I actually have walked down at that point and saw the physical internet, which is all the fiber that was coming in. And the fiber would hook up to a place called the Meet Me Room, which was where all the big shots hang on, all the AOLs and all that. That's where they got their internet service. And so I learned a lot about it. I had my office on the 30th floor of the building. I rented an office in the 29th floor of the One Wilshire Building, and basically I just dragged a wire up and put it into my router, and I was up. So I had unlimited internet service, as much as you could afford, and that was a lot of fun. And I did make a 24-mile shot from the top of that building all the way down to a place called Los Alamitos, where that was my office, which was, I couldn't believe it. That's a long shot for, that was on a internet frequency. So worked fine. So I learned a lot, but that's where it helped. Skylar's also been in business.
I was in the travel management industry mostly. And my last position in that world was as a global travel manager for a consulting firm. And so I was not involved in tangible products. I was involved in service. But I was very involved in service. And so I had a lot of expertise in that area to bring along.
Well, you guys make a great team, and you came up with an amazing invention.
She's also very kind of shy. She was also a professional ballerina for a number of years. So
1,000 years ago.
She's been on stage. Not so much.
That's a long time ago. I'm very old.
So when you had the idea, you had to figure out how to make it. What did you do there? Did you have to find a factory, or did you know of a factory?
Yeah, you know that it's always a challenge between what you can make. You can if you have plenty of money, you can make just about anything. But that wasn't our forte at that time. We looked at using a PC board effect, but the PC boards were stiff, and I thought, I don't want to do that because it's like putting another piece of plastic in your pocket, and who cares? So I said, how am I going to do this so it's flexible and you can beat on it? It's not going to matter. By the way, one of our reps has actually put his in a washing machine and a dryer, and then his dog chewed on it for a while, and it's his favorite
all
one.
of this out of the cover, so and it still works.
It's been through the ringer, so to speak. And so we graduated to that. We found some people in a place called Santee, California, who could actually make the product for us, and that's where they're made. So, and as a veteran, I wanted to stay in the U.S. because I think it says a lot for our country. Rather than, we've had many offers to go to China, and we said thanks, but no thanks. We did have a booth at the 2018 CES show, and it was a great experience.
Wow.
If you've ever been to CES, it's like Wonderland. I mean, anything electronic, from you name it, it's there. The last time we were there, they had exotic sports cars going down there. So it was with all the batteries and stuff. So here we are.
You seem to have. Go ahead.
I was just going to say the very first version of this was a PC board covered with wood. Very beautiful wood that my brother actually had made for us.
Mm-hmm.
So we went, that was in the garage. So we graduated to a sewing manufacturing company, as he mentioned, in Santee. And they make actually medical products as well as our products.
Mm-hmm.
So the good news is for us and for them is that during the pandemic, they were able and required to stay open because they were manufacturing medical products.
Mm-hmm.
So we were able to continue manufacturing throughout all of 2020.
And you had all these things kind of fall into place for you. What about the patent? Was that any challenge to be able to get some intellectual property on kind of something that already exists within a phone, but portable the way you've presented it?
Great question. And I think that I had really good advice from a friend of mine who was an attorney. And he said, you know, the best advice I can tell you is get the best attorney you can afford and let them do the work, because patents are extremely unique. And in fact, a patent attorney is different than any other attorney that you can imagine, and they go to their own schools. So we went to a very, very good outfit in Irvine. Nobby Martin's the name of the outfit, and they are one of the biggest and most renowned patent offices there are. So we saved up our pennies and dimes and nickels, and they wrote the applications for the patents, and for all but one. And the good news is, when you have a patent, you want to have as many independent claims as you can get, and then the dependent claims will stand on their own. What that means is you have a very broad patent, and it has a lot of use then. And so that's where the patents came in. We ran through the whole thing, had the office actions, and eventually they were awarded. So they also did one of the trademarks, and the other trademarks I did myself. And so that's how we got our intellectual property. And I think when you have something like this that we believe is very helpful and very useful, I think it's important to have some protection. So that's how we do it.
What would you say was the hardest part of getting it to the point of having a finished product or products today?
I think the hardest part is to get people to actually believe it works, because it's innocuous. It's just a piece of, it just looks like a little pad here. What the heck is that? Why would I think about this? And the other thing is that because wireless is invisible, it's like, how do you explain it? And you can't see a wireless signal. Let's be honest about it. And the only way you can understand it is to have an external piece of equipment to watch it come and go. And I learned a lot about that when I was in the service. And I mean, one of the places I was at was in Vietnam, where all the jungles are, and radio propagation there is not good. So we had to use kind of unethical devices and ways to get it done. So you have to be able to do that. I did a job up in the Mojave where I had a lot of the same problems, because they have dust storms there, and there's a lot of iron in the dust, and it attenuates signals. So we had to do some. Again, it's not unethical. It's just a different way of doing business before we can get everything to work. So you have to think beyond the problem. So that's kind of the long and short of it.
We've watched your product on HSN, and we've heard how it works. Tell us where you're selling it besides HSN.
We have some, one place we've sold it is in the Hammaker Schlemmer catalog, which has been great. And in also some local retailers in the San Diego area. And then we sell it online as well. And we have a vice president of sales who is also a Vietnam vet, and he's in Miami, and he spent a career in the electronics industry, consumer electronics, and he has contacts all over the country, and he has connected us with those people to establish some more outlets, more channels of distribution, and we're looking at several large ones and lots of regional ones as far as distribution.
After you manufactured it, did you have prepared where it was going to be sold? Did you have a plan, or did you just make some units and say, let's figure it out afterwards? What was your plan of attack at that point?
Well, we had a kind of a two-pronged attack. The guy that she's talking about, like I said, he worked for large companies, Sharp, people of that realm. He worked for a place called 4A Global, which is a $100 million, $200, $300 million a year distribution company. So he had the contacts within the industry. And then I think the other thing is we have, like most businesses, we have a business plan that we carry around with interested people. And the one thing we haven't done is we don't have any loans on the company or anything else. We basically have built the company on our own, our own money. So
yeah,
here we are.
have no debt.
We have no debt, and I think that we certainly are available to anything that makes business sense. Whether it be we offer licensing on our site, and also we're business people. If the money makes sense and if it makes sense for both parties, then we'll certainly take a look at whatever might happen.
As a consumer, it seems and you've mentioned that you have multiple products. So how do I know as a consumer which one is the right one for me?
We hope that you'll look at our website because it's pretty clear on there. And the two that we're selling the most of right now are the Hottie Extreme and the Hottie Extreme 5G, because they are the most useful to everyday consumers. Our next product is in development, and well, it's already developed, but we're in the process of getting the packaging designed and fixtures made so that this can actually be manufactured. It's called the Launchpad. And the Launchpad, there we go, sorry. The Launchpad is a product that works very similar to the Hottie Extreme 5G. It actually has a place to put your phone or your device in the launch area. And that's something that we have noticed about people when they try to use the Hottie Extreme 5G. They say, do you put your phone on it? Well, it works better if you don't. But in this case, this one works best if you put the phone right here in the launch area, or your laptop on the edge, or your gaming console, whatever Wi-Fi cellular device you're using. This product will boost everything up, including 6G, which is going to be extremely important for autonomous vehicles. But it's already starting to be rolled out in parts of the world and gradually in the US, but it goes all the way 4G, 5G, and 6G. It's extremely powerful.
And you're ahead of the game.
We hope so. We sent some of the prototypes out to a few of our reps, and one of our reps is a fairly young guy in Los Angeles, and he's also a part-time gamer. So he said, I got this thing. I stayed up all night. I was killing people till 5 o'clock in the morning.
No signal lost, signal boost.
Actually, what happens is when you have a stronger signal, and especially with the gaming folks, they're interested in a thing called latency. Latency is how long it takes for the signal to go out, your signal to go out and come back, or your signal to go out, period. And the latency was what? Normally it's around 50 milliseconds if you have an okay signal strength.
The ping time is usually
time,
in that area.
So what happened is the ping time went from 53 milliseconds to 14. So
fast.
Very, very fast, and especially if you want to be up there with the sword doing the thing, or if you just want to run your tank in circles, it works out really well. So gamers, I think, are going to be one of the big fellas that want to look at these things, because they're they're out there spending thousands of dollars on chairs and super duper video things and stuff. So, you know, if you're getting really into that stuff, I guess it's just fine. But this will definitely make your signal much stronger and much quicker.
Very nice. Well, congratulations to both of you, Mike and Skylar Walker.
Thank you.
Unbelievable. The main thing is to just let people know that this product is out there and that it exists, and it can save people so much aggravation and help them with productivity and actually just being able to play games and actually being able to talk to somebody without dropping the signal.
That's right.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
And thank you both for being on the show. Really appreciate it. Unbelievable product line, and congratulations on your success and your continued success. Let's keep in touch for sure.
Thank you,
We
Brian.
will, and
Appreciate it.
thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. And if you'd like to be a guest on the Got Invention show, go to gotinventionshow.com. Until then, keep on inventing. Thank you for joining us.